both microphones, so if you could turn this one on. Boy, I get standing behind there. I don't know what to do if I stay behind this podium too long. I want this congregation to know how blessed it is for me to be here. I feel blessed to be here. I missed you. I just found out today, actually, that it's been 5 years since I've been here. It doesn't seem that long ago. I thought it was sooner, but it is good to be back. I want to share a text with you in the book of Philippians. If you have your Bibles, please turn there. Philippians chapter 1 is where we're going to be today. And I want this lesson to be about being joyful. I've been sharing some series of lessons back home in Glendale, where I live, and to the church at Northwest there, about being certain things, being patient, being joyful, and being right, and being all these different things. We've had a yearly series around that, and Philippians is where I want to take us today about being joyful. You're going to have to hang with me for the first 5 or 7 minutes, because you're probably going to be going, that's not joyful, Josh. We got to get to some joy. But I promise if you hang in there with me, we'll get to it. You know, I used to really want my life to matter. This wasn't very long ago, that I wanted to make a difference, and that I wanted my life to matter. Some of you know this, some of you don't know this about me, but I used to be a sergeant in Rockdale in the police force, and I use that illustration just because I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to matter. And then one day, this gentleman came up to me and he asked me, he said, you know, have you ever thought if the Lord just tarried for another 100 years, who would remember your name? I started thinking about that, kind of evaluating it. And he said, better yet, who would remember anybody's name in 100 years? And would they even get a paragraph about their life in any history book? I started thinking about that and well, maybe that there would be a handful of people that would be remembered, or that their name would be remembered. We can surely think of people that's been around for 100 years. The brutal reality of that, of not being remembered or being remembered, or a big paragraph or no paragraph, brings us, to me, to our text today. So turn your Bibles to the book of Philippians, chapter 1, beginning in verse 19. It says, "For I know that this will turn out for my deliverance through your prayers and the provision of the Spirit of Jesus Christ, according to my earnest expectation and hope, that I will not be put to shame in anything, but that with all boldness Christ will even now, as always, be exalted in my body, whether by life or by death. For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain." I've heard this all my life. Have you? Verse 21. "For to me, to live is Christ, is to die is gain." And I've been told that quite a bit all my life. And I knew this about Paul, and I knew his struggle. Well, what was going on here in this text? We just took a few verses, right? But what was going on in this particular text? Well, Paul was in prison, wasn't he? Paul was in prison. He was in chains. He was in chains to the guard. And people were talking bad about him. That's pretty much what was going on here, right? What I think is amazing is he looks at his current situation and he says, it's all going to work out. And I wondered how in the world, with the persecution, the criticism of the people in that area, being chained and in prison and all that, how can he look at a situation and says, it's all going to work out? And not only is it all going to work out, but he says, I know it will work out. I know that it will work out. And I think that there's a part of Paul inside his mind was saying, I've got Jesus. He's saying, I've got so much hope in what I believe in that no matter what happens to me, I will not be ashamed of that which I'm preaching. I will not. I'm going to stay focused. And he had this great understanding that Jesus was going to be magnified in his body, whether that be in his death or that be in his life. And if we could just get this one simple thing that I'm sure in his psyche he was screaming out, if I live, Jesus. And if I die, I win. If we can just get that little bit of a psychic in our own minds, I think we would be much better off. There's some words or a phrase of words that I really learned from this particular text. And it was this: live a life worthy. Live a life worthy. Life. Life's a weird thing. I've only been living life for about 40 years, but I can tell you I've learned a few things in those 40 years, and this is what I've learned. I've learned that we'll go through school. I've learned that we go to work and we have a marriage, and we possibly could have our own kids or adopt kids, and we would have grandkids, and then we would retire, and then we would die. Now maybe right here you're thinking, Josh, be joyful. There's not much joy in that. But a few variations of that, but by large, that's what the multitude of Americans would say. That's what is in a lifespan. Now, clearly there are a lot more things in there, but by large, those are the things. There's a job, there's a house, there's cars, hobbies, vacations, and then you guessed it, what is it? Death. Sooner or later, we're all going to die. We buy what we don't need with money we don't have. We keep it for a few years, and then we take it to a thrift store. Let's get to some of the joyful parts, huh? I think there's a huge but. But have you ever thought about what makes life worth living? Because it is fruitless, it is meaningless if it's attached to the world. We go to the movies, we have sporting events, we have concerts, we buy something, we go somewhere, we eat something, but it's all fleeting. What was exciting last week is today's leftovers. And we live in this world and we contemplate, well, what makes us happy? What brings us true joy? And why am I not happy? We live around people all the time, whether they have or don't have, and the people that do have can or can't be joyful, and the people that don't have can or can't be joyful. It's still a decision, and we look at, well, why aren't you joyful? Or why are you so joyful? I've seen people with very, very little monetary type things, and they're just as happy as can be. And then I've seen people with everything, and they're just so unhappy. I wonder why. It's because they're not built. The happiness is not built around the correct thing. In the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verse 9, it says this: that which has been is what will be. That which is done is what will be done. And there is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything in which may be said, see, this is new? It has already been in ancient times before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of the things that are to come by those who will come after. How do we find a life worth living for, and can we even know what that life is? I remember as a kid, I was in the classrooms. You'll know the same thing. You've said the same thing, I'm sure. And you're not really sure the answer, and the teacher asks you an answer, it's a Bible type answer, and you're not really sure what to respond, and so the best answer that you have is what? Well, Jesus. Jesus is the answer. And I started thinking about this, a life worth living, and I remember I was writing down, a life worth living is only found in it. And I'm trying to write it down, and then I thought of it as a youngster, as a kid, I go, well, Jesus. A life worth living is found only in Jesus. And I couldn't find a better answer. Because I believe that is exactly where life is found. Now, I find it interesting about how many people are famous and have found themselves fallen into the temptation of either drug abuse or suicide. Suicide? Just people such as Ernest Hemingway, Vincent van Gogh, Kurt Cobain, Robin Williams, Marilyn Monroe. Overdose? Just people like Chris Farley, Whitney Houston, Heath Ledger, Amy Winehouse, and Elvis Presley. But listen, the world said that they had everything. Not only did they have everything, if you ever wanted to be the best at something, I mean the very best. Even though maybe you look at your surroundings and you go, I'm not going to be the best. They are clearly better than me, but you wanted to be the best. Or have you thought, at that particular time, I am the best? And you knew it. I remember talking to some sport events guys. I was around Tony Brackens. He's from this area, up in Fairfield and Teague area. Played football for the Jaguars and drafted into the NFL. And I remember going to some of Tony's events, and he could do the shot put, and he could do all these different things. And with the disc, that guy wouldn't even spin. It was so funny and humorous watching him. He would literally just stand there while all these other guys are doing all this spinning thing and trying to throw it. He would just grab the disc and get up there just as so nonchalant and go. And there it went. What did he know at that particular time? He knew he was the best. He knew that no matter what, when he stepped onto that little field or that court or that arena or whatever he was in, what was he going to do? He was going to place first. And I think eventually not only Tony, but other people, they found out real quick, there's always somebody what? Better. But we look at this idea, we want to be the very best. And these people, with some minor debate, they were proclaimed that they were the best. They were the best actors. They were the funniest. They were everything. The world said that they had it all. They had the fame. They had the stuff. And the stuff was not enough. They ended up doing things to their bodies that ended their life. And here we have Paul in prison. He's ugly, folks. He is dirty. He has nothing. The world has took everything from him. He is in chains. And in those chains with nothing and dirty and ugly, he says this, For I know, verse 19, for I know that this will turn out for my deliverance through your prayer and the supply of the Spirit of Christ Jesus. I love when Paul is writing, and then he just goes on and in his mind and in his own teaching, he says, everything's going to work out. He's got this vision. He's got a vision that keeps him on focus. That nothing is going to get in the way. And me, I make stuff up. And even if it were to come true, it wouldn't be as bad as I thought it was. This anxiety and this worry. And I want Paul's perspective. I want you to gather from the Bible that you should have Paul's perspective. I want every trial that comes my way, that comes into my life, to be centered and under Christ's teaching, such as Romans chapter 8, verse 28. It says, And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. Anxiety? I want the first thoughts to be 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 7, where it says, Casting all your anxieties on Him because He cares for you. And I want my faith to reflect 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7, where it says, For we walk by faith, not by sight. Let's just back up for just a second. Because that's easy to preach. But when you look at Paul, I know when I see his life, inside I just scream out, how in the world did Paul do this? How did he do it with all the persecution? We've never even seen that kind of persecution. How in the world did Paul pull this off? And how can I relate to you? Listen, I've shared many times up in the pulpit, and I try to put myself right back in that chair. I've sat there and I've listened to preachers before. I've listened to Philippians. How many people in here listen to the book of Philippians? Well, did it make it a lot easier when you went out there and started struggling again? Probably not. Well, why not? What is it then that we can take from the book of Philippians to implement into our life to say, you know what, I can be joyful and I'm going to be joyful? What is it? We get back into the world again, and then the things start hitting us, all of a sudden we start losing Paul's perspective, don't we? Guilty as charged. You see, Paul, he met Jesus. He met him after the fact. Because Jesus said to him, hey, just paraphrase by the word, this isn't in there. Hey, stop doing what you're doing. Paul looked up and said, who is this? The guy you're persecuting. This is Jesus. Stop doing that. So he had a personal encounter with Jesus. Paul, from Saul, was transformed into this new creation. He went 180 degrees from what he was doing, a persecutor of the church, to now a preacher of the gospel. He was baptized. He was forgiven of sin. Do you know of anyone else like that? That was transformed, that was baptized into a new creation? Well, just look to the left or right of you. Oftentimes we will put Paul in a position under persecution that we cannot relate to. And we can't, to some degree, relate to that persecution because we've never seen that, we've never done that. But I want you to know that Paul had this idea that if I look through the eyes of Jesus in every little thing, if I keep His Word on my heart, then I can get through these things. But we got to be ready. We have to be ready because people will say, well, Christianity, it just didn't work for me. I went to church and a bunch of hypocrites over there. I couldn't really get involved. It just didn't work for me. Well, I want to tell you, they missed it. Because they thought it meant it was about listening to music and a guy talking. And that's not what it is. Worship is for God. Preaching is for transformation. So a life worth living for, what is it then? Well, a life worth living for is found in the expectation. The expectation of what? As a kid, I hated waiting for stuff. I remember one year at Christmas time, it was right there at Christmas time, and guess what I did? I did. I went into that closet that I shouldn't have went into. It was a couple days before Christmas. I could not stand it. I didn't want to wait any longer. I had to know what was in there. So I went in there, and I was trying to be real slick. You cut the tape. Tell me you haven't done that. You want to make sure you try to put the tape back. Everything. You can't do it. It looks like a mess by the time you get done with it. But I tried. And I opened it up and I looked in there and I saw all the presents. I ruined my Christmas that year. It was the worst Christmas that I've ever experienced before. Part of what makes Christmas so great is just the surprise of it all. The having to wait, the expectation. And it's not necessarily the present as we get older, it's the gift. It's the gift of family being there, it's the gift of food. And I won't lie, it's still a little bit of the gift of the present. I enjoy this too. You see, to me, I think that the world is surrounded by this immediate gratification. I mean, it has to be fitting our needs right now. We don't really want to wait for anything. Guilty as charged. Fast food, fast life, fast products with free shipping. And Christmas decorations are in Home Depot in September. Instant coffee, instant pictures. Like Paul, we as Christians should live a life not in an instant gratification, but with expectation. And we do it whether we believe it or not. We do expect Christ to return, right? We expect to be resurrected, don't we? And we expect that whatever we are going through, that God will see us through it. What I think is so funny about this fastness, you'll notice that the world, it doesn't make them happier just because everything is fast. Amazon in one day. And then we complain we don't get it in that day. We become members of Prime so we can get it the very next day. And we complain if we get it in two because they're not fulfilling their end of the deal. I just heard the other day that it takes 5 hours now to fly to Hawaii instead of 4, that they've made some changes. And people are getting mad that they've extended that flight 1 more hour to get to Hawaii. And I've often wondered, don't they realize that it takes 2 to 3 weeks to sail there? Man, we could just be thankful for a plane. We want this immediate satisfaction. But Christianity longs for expectation. In Romans chapter 8, verse 18, it says, "For I consider that the sufferings of the present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us." 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 18. "While we do not look at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporary, but the things which are not seen are eternal." Okay, so what do these scriptures mean to us? What do they mean? It means that we got to go through some stuff. We have to go through some things. We have to learn to endure the things that are right there in front of us. We have to learn to welcome growth, to absorb James chapter 1, verse 1, where it says, "My brethren, count it all joy." And every time I read that, I'm like, "Count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience." John chapter 16, verse 33. "These things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace." And one of my favorite verses, same verse. "In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world." Part of Gia Ministries. I'll be talking about this tonight and the next couple of nights. that there is nothing that you cannot get through. There is nothing that you cannot accomplish if, and it's a big if, capitalize it, if you are in Christ. Stay focused on Christ. Stay focused on His Word. And this is not just classic preacher's talk, right? This is not classic preacher's talk. How do we do that? How do we stay focused? How do we stay in the Word? Well, it's things what you listen to. It's an old school teaching here. It's things that we listen to. It's things that we watch. It's things that we read. It's things that we spend time with. It's how you spend your time. A life worth living for sees death as gain. Last couple of thoughts. It's a little different though in the world, because life teaches us that that this particular life is very valuable, and it is valuable. Our life is tender, and I choose to live a long time. I pray for a long life. Okay, I'm not quite ready to go yet. I'm more like Paul. I got some things to do. I got some things I want to say. I got people I'm going to talk to. I'm not ready to go quite yet. If I go, I'm ready, but I'm not ready quite yet. It's funny when people age 85 or so, people say, "Man, he went so early." Huh? I want to just tell you some statistics real quick. The mortality rate, how often people died, decreased 60% from 1935 to 2010. Get this. Life expectancy in the 1900s was 46 for men. It was 48 for women. And that steadily increased to about 78. The world wants us to continue living. Now, I'm not saying go out there and do something to end the life. Make it quick on yourself. I'm not saying that. Enjoy life, but enjoy what life is worth living for. We're getting on the plane in Phoenix. Boarded, everything was great. Said our prayers, said what we needed to do, right? And we sat down and we got out on the runway. And here we go. Cruising out on the runway. I was on the inside aisle, so I couldn't see outside real good. We're taking taxiing for a long time. We're taxiing. I've never been on a plane that taxied that long. I'm like, we driving back into town or what? Literally, we were taxiing 15 minutes more. 15, 20 minutes. Come on. I finally, before they even say anything, I turned around. I think I was one of the first people to notice. I looked over, I tapped Bob, he was on the other aisle. I said, something's wrong. He's like, what do you mean? He's listening to his music. What do you mean? Like, we're taxiing too long. What's going on? Next thing I did is we're back at the terminal. We're pulling into the terminal. Like, this cannot be good. We pulled in the terminal, the guy got on the radio. After a few minutes, everybody's like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? He says the first engine wouldn't engage. So we're going to get a mechanic on board and find out what's going on. I looked at Bob, Bob looked at me. Bob, the first thing that come out of his mouth, he said, thank God. I said, thank God what? Thank God we weren't in the air when they found that out. I text my wife and text my mom and dad. And I told them, well, first engine is not working. They said they're going to get it fixed. We'll be out in the air in a minute. Sooner or later, they came back and told us, airplane's good, we're going to take off. Here we go. You thought the first prayer was serious. The second prayer was a lot more intense. What I thought was interesting is you see a bunch of people on that plane. It got real quiet when we took off. I think some people, I started thinking about that before I was going to talk to you. I think some people started thinking about it. Am I ready to go yet? Because I don't have any control if these engines go out. I text my mom and dad and my wife and said, well, we'll see what happens. I can't guarantee anything. Live on though. And you laugh, I'm ready to go. That's what brings all your joy. Christians don't fear death. Christians shouldn't fear death. Why? You ain't seen life yet. Wait for the afterlife. You talk about an after party. There is the afterlife right there. You get to walk Are you kidding me? For all of eternity to not have a broke foot, Jerry. You're not going to have that anymore. And you may be on wheels, but it'll be electric. You can go everywhere you want to go. Church, I want to thank you so much. It has been a great deal to my family for you to be supporting us. And you're still supporting us. I hope you know that. The monetary gift was a temporary thing, but your support will go all the way in and through my ministry. And your support has touched hundreds and hundreds of lives. Your support has allowed me to be involved in things like GEA Ministries and work in different congregations and put on men retreats for my own church homes with mentors that I've had under me. My dad being an elder, my father-in-law being a minister and elder in the church. That mentorship, I get to be absorbed in all of that. But it's because you had trust in just a young guy that didn't know much about the Bible to send him to school. I cannot thank you enough for that. I want to challenge you though, when you walk out, when you're back in the world, don't let anything steal your joy. Have this assurance, be of an assurance like Paul had, that anytime he encountered anything, the first thing that his mind went back to was the Christ, the suffering that Christ had for him. And I think the next time that we have this suffering for us, when we go through suffering, we have to start evaluating not only our own suffering, but that which has already suffered on our behalf. It will give you a lot of peace. I believe it does. I look at that every time, or I try to. Every time things start entering into my life, I look at what Christ has already done for me. Please come as we stand and sing.